Hello, everybody. Yes, it's Tracy, and I forgot to hit record. So I am adding this piece, and then I'll add the other piece to make it caught up. So everybody, thank you for attending our August 11th, our first official Ortelius meeting, where we're really talking about getting work done, not just doing an intro. I did start off with identifying some high-level goals for the project so we all are understanding where we want to be and where we're going. So we have 4 high-level goals that I covered that really defines what the Ortelius project is all about. The first being the ability to create a feedback loop, providing some value stream data and predictive analysis at a microservice level. The second being the go-to deployment solution for projects in the Continuous Delivery Foundation groups, including Jenkins, JenkinsX, Spinnaker, Screwdriver, and Tecton. The third, and my favorite, is to be able to establish a marketplace to share microservices. This is the primary reason why this needs to be an open source solution and included in something like the CDF. We know that as we start moving down this microservices architecture, that we're going to be sharing them in the same ways we share open source. Think about an API marketplace. We'll have a microservice marketplace. And then the final one is to really focus on providing visibility and reporting into what has been deployed across clusters. A lot of solutions right now are creating observability reporting around a single cluster, but what we want to do is set it above the cluster level and really look to see what's been deployed and the configuration of the microservices at a particular cluster level. There's some working groups that we've defined, including what we're calling the CD environment. This is probably our most important one that we need to get working on first. And that CD environment really is our own development infrastructure that will help us be more productive as a group. The second working group is data science and visualization. We desperately need that for goal number 4, which is really creating those clean reports and maps. Deployment integrations relates back to what we need to do for supporting these open source CD tools, and I've added Argo to that, even though it's in the CNCF. We're okay with that. And then there is creating that marketplace. The marketplace is going to be the piece that really drives this project. I have a strong feeling that being able to share and define microservices, star them, create risk analysis around them will be a really critical part of this project. We need a team that's willing to take on usability and testing. We need a team for doing documentation, and we need a team for architecture. Architecture will be extremely important as we move forward and start thinking about how to actually break Ortelius down into individual microservices. And then we just need a good development team who's willing to take on what we need. And of course, there's always outreach. We need to do some work on our logo, on our website, and we're thinking about an alien for a logo. And then project management. We need people who are willing to take on just basic project management and help Steve and Marky with managing the efforts. And on that, I will turn it over to where we started recording. Thanks.
Okay, integrations. You'll see a project out there called under Ortelius called Comp Update. Basically, it's our command line interface to allow us to plug into a lot of the existing tools pretty easily. So what ends up happening is we end up publishing a command line program to PyPy. That allows us to have a Python module, the command line, but we go and wrapper that into a container just because what we found is a lot of people don't have Python installed in their build process, but they do have Docker. So we'll wrapper that into a container and allow that to be utilized. Now things like JenkinsX, Tecton, and I believe Argo are all want to, even like Google Cloud Build, they all want to run containers as part of the CD process. So this one is where we're going to be extending out that model and hooking into all the different tools there. So if you're familiar with any of these, please sign up. Like I know what Spinnaker is, but I've never really played with it. Argo's relatively new. Argo got placed into the CNCF side of things, but from what I understand, it's a pretty Kubernetes heavy type of solution.
And its focus is on data of actually defining Kubernetes itself. That doesn't do that. It's not like a Jenkins where it's application or developer specific. It's more on the ops side than it is the dev side. Kind of like Spinnaker.
Yeah, Spinnaker is trying to straddle both worlds. It originally started out as Netflix had it managing VMs for their...
So these two would be the ones that we probably want to get started with first and get this one finished. We could probably take what we've done here and get that done. And then Spinnaker would be probably my second choice to get started on. Spinnaker or Tecton.
Yeah, and the kind of the goal would be to have a single code base that we can just tweak. You know, maybe it's a different Docker build file. You know, but basically underneath the covers, it's the same code base doing all the integrations, and then we just have, you know, like Tecton, you have to create a CDR. Jenkins X is the same way. And there are slightly different CDRs depending upon that, but we can create different containers underlying. It's going to be the same code base that's doing all the heavy lifting. The marketplace and domains, like I said, I'm actually on the Tecton catalog and hub sub-project. Kind of been peeking in on how they've been doing that. One of the challenges that I foresee in the microservice world is the ability to really structure these in a domain-driven design. A lot of the catalogs that are out there are all tag-based, so you throw a tag against a catalog entry, and that's how they kind of organize where things live in the catalog. So one of the things you have to do is you have to know what tags you need to search for and things like that.
And Steve, is that a catalog external to the cluster?
The Tecton catalog is for their Tecton tasks and their Tecton pipelines.
And where do they store that, though?
That's a website that they're hosting as part of the CDF.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, and it's just moving in. They just moved it out of experimental, and they have several different levels of tiers, and that's what they're working right now. They have like a community tier. Then they have the next tier is going to be a base certification, and then they have like a full certification and maintained by Tecton for the different tasks. So a task is just going to be a step in the work in the pipeline or the workflow. So they're trying to do that organization as part of that. Right now, they're currently thinking that they're just going to have one catalog for everybody. But I could already see the writing on the wall that people are going to want to have their own private catalogs of tasks that they want to run internally as part of that process. So that's one of the things on the marketplace, domain-driven design. If we could really structure that around a domain hierarchy and how things are searched for. So if you have any, put your thinking hats on for that one. That's actually one of the more challenging ones that we have on our list here. The UX, and this kind of comes into the UX and testing are kind of hand in hand here. How do we make the whole Ortelius easier to use? You know, how do we get somebody up and going? You know, how we can make the navigation easy. Are we reporting and visualizing the data that we have easy for people to use? So I think we'll throw in the testing in that, because the testing, we have the two parts of the testing. One will be more of the, well, three parts. We have the CLI type of testing, we have the API testing, and then we have the UI testing process. Because what I'm kind of foreseeing is that when we start throwing some test cases at the UX, that will recognize that there's certain patterns that we need to go through and redesign the UX to make things easier. Documentation, there's a documentation repository out there already. So everything's written in Doxy, which is basically a markdown language. It runs on the Hugo server. I have not pushed it over to a server yet, but Tracy's bringing up what it looks like. So this one is...
Have you built out an Ortelius one yet?
Yes, but I have not published it yet to a website.
All right.
So all the code is there, all the documentation is there to start working with. We can start doing pull requests, doing updates, and you can run the Hugo server locally, so you can kind of see your changes live as part of that process.
I'm assuming it's going to be there when it's done.
Yeah, just add an r/ in there.
Steve, just one question on that, on UX and testing as well. So are we going to run this over the pipeline as well, like the testing? And the second question is like the documentation will be the source of code for API to be worked upon and UI as well?
Yes. So what we'll do is once we get back on the productivity side, once we get the build process established, we currently have a build process, but it's internal to the Deploy Hub infrastructure. So I need to move it out of the Deploy Hub infrastructure to the Ortelius world. And what we'll do is we'll be able to add on to that any test cases that we want to add to the whole pipeline process. So that's where that will fit in as part of that.
And Steve, where will this pipeline will automatically run? Let's say I make a commit, so it should run over some platform, right? I guess GitHub Actions are there, some kind of stuff. Are we going to use that?
I'm not sure yet. We currently everything's running on Google on Google. But we did get a bunch of free credits from Microsoft. So we have a bunch of free resources on Microsoft. So we may move over to the Microsoft world, or it may span, like you said, we have the GitHub Actions. We have, you could hook in the Google Cloud Build into that, because that could work off a trigger on a commit. We have access to Circle CI as well. So we have a bunch of different options.
More than likely, we will probably keep it on Google. And I say that because if we are moved into a sandbox, the CDF, we'll then need to start covering the cost of that, which would be hugely helpful. And right now, Google has been putting a lot of, they've been hosting a lot of those types of projects on behalf of the CDF for free. So we probably will probably stay within Google.
So, and it may be a split where we actually are doing the pipeline on Google, like you said, maybe with GitHub Actions and mixing the two together, but deploying out to Azure as the area to run the test cases. You know, stand up a couple clusters over in Azure for different test cases that we would need to run as part of that process.
And why it's important actually is because if someone makes some code commit and sometimes it might be missed by our code reviewer, the pipeline should fail if there is a mismatch kind of thing. That
Mhm.
way it's important. Right?
Yeah. And that's part of the whole productivity part, is to make sure that we have all the checks in place as part of that process. And because one of the things that, because we have, like, the documentation is separate from the core code base, we can have a different pipeline for a documentation change. And that's part of the thing that, as we break the Ortelius into smaller microservices, we'll be able to have separate pipelines and separate code reviews as part of that process, which will really allow us to isolate a change from other changes and have different pipelines and different speeds as part of that process. That leads into the architecture, breaking Ortelius into microservices. Right now it's basically front-end, back-end type of microservices. So they're really big, but we'll go ahead and start breaking that down into smaller pieces. And one of the things that we'll probably do is, one of the first things, I think there's like one or two microservices that come off the top of my head that we can actually start with, that are kind of independent from the rest of the code base. And I was thinking, as just like a little exercise, is to, like, one of them is to display the log. So after you do a deployment, we display the log of what happened during the deployment. And that's basically just a single query or a couple queries that we have on the back end to go ahead and get that log information. So what I'm thinking about is actually kind of doing a competition and create that microservice with different languages. So we create one with like a Python Flask. There would actually be two microservices, one for the back-end side and one for the front-end side. So one would go get the data, the other one would go ahead and render it to the browser. But we could do like Rust, Python, Node.js, Go, and do those like as a little competition to see which microservice language seems to fit best and the easiest to use as part of that creating a microservice process. So that was one thing I was thinking about, was throwing that out there and having different people that are familiar with those languages really set that up and kind of review for everybody else, you know, what it took to make that microservice actually happen. And if there's any other languages I missed, I mean, we could go back to C and assembler. I know those. So we can actually go back to that world as well as some fun stuff. Then just general development work. You know, if you guys have enhancements that you see that are needed or bug fixes, let's get those up to date out on the issues. Right now, just hang them off of the core Ortelius repository instead of, unless it's specifically for a doc. If it's a doc change, let's go ahead and tie it to the doc repo. But if it's like a bug fix or enhancement, let's go ahead and start it in the core repo. So Christopher, your little enhancement to pull, you know, parse the AWS information, I say we go ahead and put that as an enhancement out in the core repository, and then we could track that and get the coding changes in. And that may start out in the core repository, but maybe get moved over to the command line interface world. But we'll start in the core repository with that type of issue or enhancement. The website, branding, messaging. Right now we have the little, I can't remember what it's called, but the
little rows.
Yeah, the rows of, you know, like on the compass, the little rose thing for our logo.
Wind rose is what it's called.
Windrows, that's right.
Yeah.
So things like if anybody has any artistic talents other than me that I can, which I have none, let's go ahead and we can start throwing out, new logos, those type
You've
of
thought
things.
about an alien. We like aliens. It doesn't have to be anything. It could be anything we want it to be.
Yeah. Ortelius, Abraham Ortelius was the first person that created the world atlas. So that's kind of the thought process, because it ties into the mapping that we have around the relationships and microservices. Along with that, in that whole world, there is really pushing out, letting people know that we're actually what we're up to. And the more visibility that we have, the more chance that we have to get into the CDF, easier things, more resources we'll get. So it's just like a snowballing effect on that level when we start doing the outreach. And one of the weird things, I don't know if you guys, let's see if I can see it. No, I can't. You'll see on the Discord channel. I actually found a couple bugs, literally bugs. One was a praying mantis, and also I had a baby tarantula in my office. And you'll see on the Discord channel where we have the Jenkins sticker, and that was a logo that they did around an alien as part of that. So maybe we could have an alien mapping out the world or the galaxy. So just some thoughts. And then just on the project management side, if there's other people that want to be involved in setting some of the project management, let me know, and we'll get you in put into that place.
Yeah, we definitely need help on the project management side. So any of you who are into that, please let us know. I was going to see if I could find the alien that they gave us. This was a little alien that, yeah, there he is. That was the alien that the Jenkins community gave us. And I always liked its little head. It was like, what can we do with this little head? It's a nice little mascot. And his name could be Ortelius. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Mapping out the universe.
Exactly. Because most of these are being, most of these really cool kind of group icons are being lost. I mean, they're still out there, but the CD Foundation has taken over most of the Jenkins online meetups. So.
And one of the things when we were doing trade shows, this sticker was the one that went the fastest.
It went in. I couldn't believe. In fact, Max Archbuckle from the Jenkins, he was like, I had to save a pile for you because they were going so fast.
So
everybody likes an alien.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, comments. What are your thoughts? Did we miss something? I'm going to go ahead and update the README. I'll put these working groups out there. But just general thoughts and comments, please.
Anand here. So I have one comment about, let's say if we wanted to go towards CI/CD environment kind of thing. So where I can find the details about connecting to the GCP kind of thing, or credentials around that? Or,
Yeah, right now we have not, like I said, we have not set up a public-facing or a community-facing work environment yet. Right now it's all internal to Deploy Hub, and that's one of the things that I'm in the process of moving over. So there's things like that we're working on, like getting a Zoom account.
Nod, is that something that you would like to work with Steve on and give some direction on?
Yes, yes, definitely. I will like to work on that.
Okay.
To setting up the CI/CD and the testing as well. Means.
Okay.
I have a suspicion that we will need some maturity around that in order to become part of the CDF. So that's awesome that you would like to help work on that.
Yes, yes. And one thing, we have project on GitHub, right? So if someone creates an issue or creates an improvement, I don't have access to assign it to myself, kind of thing, or who is going to assign if someone wants to work on that kind of thing.
Yeah, let me,
That is what Marky should, that's what Marky will be working on as the community manager. But if somebody wants to step in right now and kind of be a co-community manager, we're happy to have anybody do that. Marky may be out for a while.
Okay, okay. So I guess for now we can add a comment like, Steve, can you add me for this assignee kind of thing in a comment?
yeah, and if you guys can please join the Ortelius core project as a contributor. That way you can see the issues popping up. I can do the assignments and stuff like that, because right now we only have the 5 out there. And we know we have more people working on it. But if you can do the base Ortelius, that way you can actually see things coming in, and we can move that around.
Is it an actual organization or just?
Yes. So let me share my screen real quick. So Tracy, stop sharing. So this is so the organization is called Ortelius. Out there is the Ortelius. Ortelius is the is basically the source code repository. And this is where we have the issues and pull requests that we're currently working on. This is where I was saying we just have the few contributors right now. If you can add yourself as a contributor to this one, then you'll at least get noticed. If we'll funnel all the issues right now, we'll funnel through this one, and then we may move them into the other repositories.
Does everybody know how to make themselves a contributor? Why don't you just go ahead and walk through it, Steve?
Oh, it's been a while. I believe.
Do we have to be invited to be contributors?
No, you can.
I guess everyone can update the readme.md with the contributor list, and they can able to add their name and can be a contributor as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if it's a doc thing, you'll see out here the docs, and this is all the markdown and how to run the markdown. So the Hugo server. Let me know if you're running on Windows, the installing Hugo, you need to install the extended package. Let me know if you run into any issues getting Hugo installed for running the
Why don't you
the
put that
docs.
in that, right there in that document? Why don't you update that, Steve?
I will.
Okay.
But that's where the docs are. You know, we have a couple things for documentation changes. You know, simple things like markdown needs to be cleaned up. We had this one come in, and where to start type of where to start with Ortelius. And then the other pieces that we have out here, the comp update is a CLI interface. All these one with stores. This is the hipster store repository, so this is the sample code. This goes along with the sample code. And then here's some of the other repositories. This is for when we created the CDR for Nebula, which is now called Relay, as part of the Puppet world. I have to see what they, I have to circle back around with Puppet to see what they have going on that front. And then just some more demo stuff. I think these two can be cleaned up as part of that process. but that's kind of what we have going on right now. Like I said, we'll go ahead and put like test cases, a test case directory right off of the root here, and break it out into functionality, functional areas that we want to test. And then we'll have like a UI, or maybe we have a UI, and then underneath UI we may have like applications, components, user groups, depending on how you guys want to structure the test cases for the UI. But that's the general layout of, lay of the land right now as part of that process. Things that I know we need to do is add in owners files so you guys can be reviewers and all that stuff. So just bear with us as we get that sorted out. And if you want to be added to any of this as a reviewer or the different levels, just let me know and we'll get that taken care of. We're early on in this process, so we have the opportunity to really form this the way it makes sense for you guys.
So,
Is it good to add a...
Sorry, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Aish.
Okay, yeah, so I was just asking that you said that we are going to run the test infra on Azure. So, but on the other hand, you said that our Python code is being packaged as Docker and it's going to be run on Kubernetes. So, is that the exact same code that we are going to test? If yes, then are we going to use, what kind of Azure infra are we planning to use to test our services? I mean, if they are going to run on Kubernetes, then we'll have to use Azure Kubernetes service.
It's early on, so whatever makes sense. So, and if there's a better place to run the test cases, then let's go ahead and look at that. I'm not attached to any single cloud provider. However we want to set it up, and if we need to stand up like a VM image type of thing that we want to run the test cases against, we want like a Windows desktop that we're going to run Selenium from. The test cases, we could do that. It doesn't have to be a Kubernetes style test workload. Whatever makes sense, let's take that path. That's the easiest. I don't like to try to shoehorn, something into Azure just because we have Azure, where if we stick with, an AWS world, it's going to be, so much easier. So however it fits, let's focus on that.
And Aisha, do you want to be involved in those discussions because these are really good discussions to be having right now, since we haven't really sorted out our development infrastructure.
Tracy, sorry, this is Eric. Would this fit in the working groups? Would these be sub-discussions?
Yes. So I'm thinking that if we look at the, Steve, would you share your screen, or here, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
So what I am thinking is that it would be, right now, if we look at what is the most important to get started, it's this top one. These will come in time, and if anybody wants to take on any of these, it's great. But we need to get this environment sorted out for the community, so that everybody can have a consistent way of working and testing.
So, Tracy, my question is: should we start trying to just open this up for people to jump in and join these working groups so that we can start scheduling meetings for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is to kind of have a sign up for each working group, and then and that will kind of dictate the schedule when we're going to have the working groups. So we'll probably put does it make sense to do like a doodle for the productivity, so we can get the schedule figured out when to meet for that? And then it kind of looks like The other one would be testing and documentation. So kind of seems like three high level or three working groups to start with, or is that too many?
I don't think it's too many. I think where anybody has a particular interest, that's where they should be. That's where they should gravitate to.
I just have a question. Sorry if it's irrelevant
No,
on
no problem.
this. When we are talking about testing, are we talking about like all the services are already deployed and we are make sure that they are they are all running healthy, integrated together, and UI can talk to all the services and existing macro services, or we are talking about like templatizing our microservices that it's already taking care of, like in the Kubernetes world, what kind of tests are like should fail in the liveness or readiness, and make sure that we are in the pipeline considering that what kind of test, what is the MTTR, what is like, because sometimes we don't want to even promote it to the next level until my component is fully working, and then after that test is integrated well, and then after that UI can just integrate well with all of the underlying micro. Is this considered in this pipeline, all of them, or it has nothing to do with this? It's already, we already talked over it, because this is my first time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maggie, I
already,
don't think we know either. I don't think we know either. So in terms of what, there's a lot that,
I guess.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, good. Good.
No.
Tracy.
I was just going to say, I don't know the answer to Maggie's question. I think that there is work on both sides.
Since I have worked on, means I am working on QA testing and automation.
Yeah.
So I guess the first level checks will be for code to be unit test, right? Means developers should have a unit test repo.
Mm-hmm.
That should be passed on every pipeline, right? Whenever each commit goes, that test should get passed. And after that, we should have a infrastructure level of code as well, right? Suppose the version is mismatched kind of thing. So that categories fall in the integration kind of test. And after that, we should have the functional test case around API and UI. We should give minimum things to the UI testing, but most of the things will be done from the API level and integration level. So we should have some pipeline kind of ready, like a stage,
I
build
agree.
stage, then the unit integration, then the UI and API kind of thing.
That's why I feel like this is the most important right now.
Talking like when we are like promoting a service, and then let's say who's defining what is the circuit breaker? What should fail on this service fast? Because sometimes your unit tests and component tests keep failing in the environment, and you cannot promote it, and then when it's just start overing or it's cascading to the underlying service and bring down the other service event. So it has to be defined in the whole process that we are not causing every service fail, because the dependency, it cannot talk to the other dependency.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so Maggie, so right now, Ortelius itself doesn't have that problem because it's still a monolithic. And we'll get to a point where it is in microservices. However, to that point, and when it comes to testing how Ortelius is working, that is part of the solution that Ortelius is providing. And that actually needs to be clearly tested out to make sure that the version tracking is accurate. So for example, I think I may have opened a ticket, but I saw a place where we had a microservice that was being consumed by 3 different applications, but when I went into one of those applications, it didn't show it was using the new microservice. So that level of testing we need to do from the perspective of what Ortelius is providing to end users, because that is probably part of the problems that we're trying to solve. So we need to build some test cases around that some of that core functionality. Because remember, it's got a version control engine in it, and we need to make sure that that version control engine is working properly.
So, Tracy, this is Eric. Just into Anand's point, it sounds like Ortelius is going to evolve into many types of different test case scenarios. With the different types of code base we use, you might have different unit testing frameworks. And then with Selenium, that's a whole nother can of worms. You know, is that going to be done with JUnit or what platform is that going to be run? So Anand, I think it sounds like it's going to evolve into many different streams of different types of testing. That I think we
Even we also need infrastructure kind of test case where we need to call kubectl server, or we have the kubectl environment. We need to test the versioning kind of thing. So it actually evolves a lot more.
Yeah. And then also one of the things I kind of envision is putting a Istio service mesh on there, so we can actually send out as we start breaking Ortelius into smaller microservices, that we can send out a change and put it out into the same cluster and route over to some test cases to that as like a beta or whatever we want to call
like
it.
a sidecar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can actually have, so we'll be testing in production as part of that process as well. As long as it's not a, you know, if we get into destructive, you know, like we have to do like a delete a user or something like that, we'll have to step back and make sure that the unit tests are really clean on a destructive type of test case before we automatically push it out to the production environment. That's kind of the thought process that I have, being able to really start leveraging the technology that's out there. And we'll actually have Ortelius managing Ortelius, the relationships, the versions, and how it hooks into the whole pipeline process. And this is where the fun stuff starts. You know, when we start looking at, I have a service change, and it's a simple update. What path do we need to go down? You know, and that's where the whole ML process that we're talking about, you know, decision making as part of this, how it's going to affect the transition from a developer's change out to a production runtime. You know, which path we're going to take, because not every change needs to go down the same path all the time.
Well, that's what we were talking about over here when I was talking about doing the data science and thinking truth tables.
Yeah.
We need to be able to pass back to whatever CD pipeline the risk level of that change, but we're ways to get there. I think what we need to think about is what we want to accomplish in the next 2 weeks, because we have these calls every 2 weeks. If you would take the time, and Christopher, I took the liberty of adding your name over here to the architecture folks, since you're already working on this AWS scraping.
Good.
If you know, if there's an area that you feel like you would like to put your name to, let's get that so we know who the some of the initial team is going to be. I have recorded this. I'm going to send it out to the folks who could not come and ask them to do the same thing. But in terms of what we really need to get done, and from just a nuts and bolts level, it's this. So if there's anybody else on this call today who wants to help with getting some of this stuff set up, let me know or add your name there, and that working group will get started getting this sorted out so that the rest of us can actually start playing and making contributions and getting it built out, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah. Tracy, can you please give the edit rights? I don't have them.
You don't have it? Let me try again. Share. Copy
Have you
link.
reloaded?
Yeah, you might have to refresh your browser window if you came in originally when it was just view only.
Sure, let me do that.
And does everybody have the link to the Discord?
I will do that now as well. Where is my Discord?
Yeah, the link is further down in the agenda notes from the previous one.
And why this document have the anonymous kind of stuff only? Means it's hard to detect if someone changes.
I don't know. It's like For some reason, I think it's because people start out as a view only. So I think that's why it's recording everything as anonymous.
Mhm. But
I was wondering that too. Like anonymous frog, anonymous squirrel.
I guess if someone is editing now, we should have the proper name for that particular person.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
have to play around with that and see what settings we need to put on the Google Docs as part of that. What we may need to do next time is just have everybody add a comment and see how they're showing up. I have a feeling it's because we changed the permissions while everybody was like in view mode that it kind of confused it.
But everybody
My
put
goodness.
everybody put their own name at the top of the document, so you just need to see which anonymous animal put which name in it. You can de-anonymize it.
Right.
Hey, Tracy, I think we talked about in the kickoff meeting about having the working group be out on YouTube or publishing the meetings to make them accessible.
Yes.
Just looking at YouTube, Ortelius is still available, so you might want to jump on that and kind of.
It should be gone. I tried.
Is it?
Let's see.
Sorry.
I've published it up there.
I saw the
YouTube.
video yesterday. It's under Tracy Reagan, right? Tracy Reagan.
Yeah, now it is. I'm having issues with it. You know how they do that.
It is being squatted, it looks like.
Yes, it was because I got this thing
Erasing.
and I was supposed to have it in 5 days, and because we now have slow mail, I got it in 9.
So, I mean, we could just use Ortelius project or something.
I need to fix this one because I've already started uploading to it. I'm assuming I'll get it sorted out. I have the thing. I just have to be able to input it, but they're like, it took too long. It's like, well, can't help that. But it's listed under me right now, and I need to get it changed to, I have to get it fixed. So that's where it's at. I had it as Ortelius, and for some reason, they didn't like it. And the only way for me to keep it up was to change it to my account. I will work on that today. I'll get it fixed somehow. But Ortelius itself, I think it's gone. Well, I guess not. Yeah, because this was this just, was that just I guess that's just one video. I'll get it, I will sort it out today.
And do we need to capture all the social media account around Ortelius, like Instagram kind of thing?
So I didn't do Instagram. We do have a Twitter, and I didn't do a LinkedIn. So right now all we have is a Twitter account, and we have what is supposed to be a YouTube account.
None? I know TikTok is kind of taboo these days, but were you planning on dancing for us for that?
That would be awesome. I thought about doing that. So we have this Twitter account, and I'll get the YouTube account sorted out. If somebody wants to create any of those other accounts, that works for me. I can create a LinkedIn account. Why don't I do that?
And has anybody ever used the Zoom where you could push it to like YouTube at the same time as you're doing the meeting? I know there's the come around, you can come back and take the recording and push it to YouTube, but there's that integration. Does anybody use that?
Not I.
Okay. We'll try to figure that out because there's an option in here somewhere.
And I couldn't log on to Discord again, Steve. So if you can generate a link and post it in the chat, I got to figure out what my password is.
There's a link in the meeting notes further down.
I wonder if I'm hoping that is a good one. Somebody try it because I did.
Yeah, I haven't signed up on Discord yet. I'll try today.
I'm hoping that this Discord link doesn't expire.
Hey, Steve, I think Google Meet would have probably pretty good integration to do that if you guys would consider that. I don't know how married we are to Zoom, but
We're not.
The problem with Google Meet is
Yeah, see, that's
It's-
expired.
it's tied to your organization.
okay.
So Tecton's run into this problem because Google originally started Tecton and they had the Google Meet. So it has to be a Google employee that starts the meeting and recording it. Otherwise, nobody else can get it going.
I see. Okay.
It's a weird thing that we've run into with
They don't make it easy for us today.
No.
And like the whole editing the Google Docs, and if one of the things to make it easy for us is to do a Google group, but in order to be part of a Google group, you have to have a Gmail account, and if your organization, your company you can't sign in with your company email into the Google group, so there's that issue as well. Like you said, it doesn't happen very easily, some of this stuff.
Okay, so I created a new Discord link and I posted it on the doc, but that one should not expire. So if anybody out there has not done it, go ahead and try it, make sure it works for me.
Steve, I just popped the support link in Zoom.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, perfect.
So I'll get I'm going to work on getting that Ortelius reactivated.
Yeah, we'll get that YouTube channel sorted out, and then we'll be able to live stream from, hopefully we'll figure out how to live stream Zoom to the YouTube
That's
channel
what I would
live.
like to do, yes.
That's the ultimate goal for the meetings. And we'll do that for not only this meeting, but also any of the sub-working groups as well.
Tracy, for the PMing overall aspect, I know you're just plunking stuff into Google Docs. Is there a more Kanban approach or a agile approach to tracking all the work? I know
We have done nothing in that order. If you'd like to sign up to do that, that works.
I will bravely dip my toe into there.
Okay.
I think to start with, we'll just, the big thing is just getting enhancements and issues and things up against and pull requests up against the repos.
And I know that Nita, I can't think of her last name right now, she said she would help with doing project management stuff. So I'll put her name in there with yours.
Okay.
See if I can find where we were.
Well, we've run over by about 10 minutes. Any last comments or anything like that? Thank you, everybody, for joining in and working on this. It's a new project. We'll have some stumbling, but also at the same time, we got a lot of opportunities to adjust it so we can make it work really easy for everybody.
And look for the invite for the meeting with Dan Lorick from the TOC in the Discord channel, if you're interested in being on that call, because I'm hoping he'll outline to us what we need to do to get to a place where we can be in a sandbox.
And on that note, please add yourself as contributors to the main repo, because I know Dan will be looking at that as an indicator of where we're at.
Yep. Okay, everybody. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Lots of love.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.